Imagine a packed transatlantic flight, turbulence rattling the cabin. When a pregnant woman collapses, her life and her unborn child's hanging by a thread. A black teenager, barely 17, steps up with nerves of steel, defying chaos to save her. What he asks for afterward isn't fame or fortune. It's a request so profound it brings a hardened millionaire to tears. This is a story of heroism, heart, and twists that will leave you stunned. Craving more tales of courage and connection? Subscribe now to our platform for exclusive stories that uplift and inspire. Don't miss a single moment. Jaden Carter was 16, a lanky black kid from Chicago's South Side, with a quick smile and eyes that held dreams bigger than the cramped apartment he shared with his grandmother, Ruth. Born in 2008, Jaden grew up in Englewood, where gunshots punctuated the night and opportunity felt like a rumor. His mother died of an overdose when he was 4. His father was a ghost, gone before Jaden could remember his face. Ruth, a retired nurse with hands toughened by decades in ERs, raised him on stories of resilience and a strict code. Help where you can, no matter the cost. Jaden was sharp, acing biology at his underfunded high school, his nose often buried in medical textbooks borrowed from the library. He dreamed of becoming a doctor, inspired by Ruth's tales of saving lives, but college felt like a mountain too steep for a kid whose sneakers had holes. It was the summer of 2025, and Jaden was on a rare trip, a flight to London, his first time leaving the States, funded by a scholarship program for gifted teens. He sat in economy, row 32, seat D, his backpack stuffed with secondhand books and a sandwich Ruth packed, her voice echoing, "Keep your head up, boy. You're meant for big things." The Boeing 787 was packed, a transatlantic red-eye from Chicago to Heathrow, the cabin humming with the drone of engines and the murmur of passengers. Jaden, nervous about flying, fidgeted with his earbuds, trying to focus on a podcast about emergency medicine. Across the aisle, in first class, sat Victor Langston, a 42-year-old tech millionaire with a sharp suit and sharper temper. Victor had built a cybersecurity empire, his name plastered on Forbes lists, but his heart was cold. Business deals over family, always. Beside him was his wife, Elena, 34, 7 months pregnant with their first child. Elena was a former ballet dancer, her grace softening Victor's edges, her olive skin glowing despite the exhaustion of pregnancy. They were headed to London for a conference, Victor's mind on contracts, Elena's on the baby girl they'd named Sophia. Jaden noticed them briefly when boarding. Victor's curt nod to the flight attendant, Elena's warm smile, then buried himself in his podcast. 2 hours into the flight, over the Atlantic, turbulence hit, the plane shuddering like a car on a bad road. Passengers gripped armrests, but Jaden stayed calm, Ruth's voice in his head, "Panic, don't solve nothing." Then, a scream pierced the cabin. Elena, in first class, had collapsed, clutching her belly, her face pale and slick with sweat. Victor froze, his phone slipping from his hand as he shouted for help. The flight attendants rushed over, their training kicking in, but the situation spiraled. Elena was gasping, her pulse weak, her eyes fluttering. A call went out for a doctor, but the only one on board, a retired pediatrician, admitted he hadn't handled obstetrics in decades. Jaden, overhearing, felt his heart race. He'd read about eclampsia in Ruth's old medical books. Severe pregnancy complications, seizures, high blood pressure. He hesitated, his hands shaking, but Ruth's words pushed him forward. "Help where you can." Jaden stood, his voice steady despite the stares. "I'm not a doctor, but I know some things. Let me help." The flight attendants, desperate, let him through. Victor, wild-eyed, snapped, "You're a kid. What can you do?" Jaden ignored him, kneeling beside Elena. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse erratic. He checked her wrist, counting beats like Ruth taught him, and recognized the signs. Preeclampsia may be worse. "She needs oxygen and to stay calm," he said, his voice firm. He directed a flight attendant to grab the onboard oxygen mask and asked for any magnesium sulfate in the medical kit. A long shot, but worth trying. To everyone's shock, the kit had it, standard for transatlantic flights. Jaden, guided by textbook memory and Ruth's ER stories, instructed the crew to administer a small dose, stabilizing Elena's convulsions. He kept her head elevated, talking softly to keep her conscious. "You're going to be okay, ma'am. Think about your baby." The cabin watched, breathless, as the plane diverted to Shannon, Ireland, for an emergency landing. Elena is stabilized by the time paramedics boarded, whisking her to a hospital. Victor, shaken, grabbed Jaden's arm as he returned to his seat. "Kid, I don't know how you did that, but thank you." Jaden, exhausted, just nodded, his mind replaying every step, wondering if he'd done enough. At Shannon Airport, passengers were rerouted, but Victor sought Jaden out, offering a business card. "You ever need anything, call me." Jaden tucked it away, thinking little of it, his focus on getting to London for the scholarship program. A week of STEM workshops at Imperial College. He called Ruth from the airport, her voice crackling with pride. "You did good, Jaden. Real good." In London, Jaden threw himself into the workshops, his mind buzzing with robotics and biochemistry. But Elena's face haunted him. He texted the hospital, learning she and the baby were stable. Sophia, born premature but healthy via emergency C-section. Relief flooded him, but he kept it quiet, not one for attention. Back in Chicago, life resumed its grind. Ruth's arthritis worsened, their apartment's rent spiked, and Jaden's scholarship didn't cover college tuition. He worked weekends at a corner store, saving pennies, his dream of med school slipping. Then, a month later, Victor called. "I want to meet you," he said, his voice softer than Jaden remembered. Victor was in Chicago for business and invited Jaden to a downtown hotel. Jaden, in his best jeans and a borrowed blazer, showed up nervous, expecting a quick thank you. Victor was different, humbled, his eyes red-rimmed. He'd been at Elena's bedside, rethinking his life. "You saved my wife and daughter," he said, voice breaking. "I owe you everything." Jaden, awkward, shrugged. "Just did what I could." Then came the moment that floored Victor. Jaden didn't ask for money or fame. "If you want to help," he said, "there's a clinic in my neighborhood. It's falling apart. Leaky roof, no equipment. Kids get sick, old folks die waiting. Could you fix it?" Victor, expecting a personal request, choked up. A kid who could have asked for a check or a job chose a community he'd never see. Victor nodded, tears spilling. "I'll do it, Jaden. For you." The first twist came weeks later. Victor didn't just fix the clinic. He poured millions into it, rebuilding it into a state-of-the-art facility named the Carter Community Health Center, after Jaden's grandmother. He flew Jaden and Ruth to the opening, Ruth's eyes shining as she cut the ribbon, her cane steady in Jaden's hand. But Jaden's life didn't magically transform. College rejections piled up. His grades were stellar, but funds were short. He worked harder, tutoring kids, his med school dream fading. Then, a second twist. Victor, digging into Jaden's background, learned about his mother's death and found her old case file. She'd been part of a clinical trial gone wrong, a pharmaceutical company's negligence swept under the rug. Victor, with his wealth and connections, reopened the case, winning a settlement for Jaden, enough to cover med school and more. Jaden, now 17, enrolled at Northwestern's pre-med program in 2026, his tuition paid. But the biggest twist came a year later. At a scholarship gala, Victor revealed he'd rewritten his will, naming Jaden as a beneficiary. Not for money, but for a stake in his company's foundation, dedicated to funding clinics worldwide. "You taught me what matters," Victor said, his voice cracking. Jaden, stunned, hugged him, whispering, "Just keep helping people." Ruth, watching from the crowd, wept, her boy's courage rippling far beyond that flight. Jaden's life in Englewood hadn't prepared him for the spotlight. The clinic opening made local news, his face plastered on Chicago TV. A shy kid hailed as a hero. He hated it. Attention felt like a weight, not a reward. At school, kids who'd ignored him now wanted selfies. Teachers who'd overlooked him pushed him toward leadership roles. Jaden stayed grounded, Ruth's lessons his anchor. Fame don't make you. Character does. He spent evenings at the Carter Clinic, volunteering, learning from doctors who saw his potential. Ruth, despite her pain, came to, mentoring nurses, her old ER fire rekindled. Jaden's days were a blur. Classes, work, volunteering. But his nights were for dreaming, his textbooks open under a dim lamp. Ruth's snores a steady rhythm in their tiny apartment. Victor and Elena stayed in touch, sending photos of Sophia, a chubby-cheeked toddler by 2027. Elena, fully recovered, invited Jaden to their Lake Shore Drive penthouse, a world of marble and glass that made him dizzy. She thanked him with a painting she'd made, a silhouette of a boy in a plane, light breaking through clouds. "Your family now," she said, her accent thick with emotion. Victor, softer since Sophia's birth, offered Jaden a summer internship at his company. Langston Tech. Jaden declined politely. He wanted medicine, not tech, but accepted a mentorship, meeting Victor monthly to discuss life, not just business. Victor, once all sharp edges, listened, learning from a kid half his age. The settlement from the pharmaceutical case was a game changer, but Jaden didn't touch it for himself. He paid Ruth's medical bills, fixed their apartment's heat, and donated the rest to the clinic for pediatric equipment. Ruth scolded him gently. "Save some for you, boy." But Jaden, stubborn, said, "You taught me to give, Nana." College was a grind. Organic chemistry kicked his butt, and imposter syndrome whispered he didn't belong among rich kids with private tutors. But he pushed through, his dorm room a shrine to Ruth's wisdom, a photo of her in her nurse's cap, a note saying, "You are enough." His classmates, initially skeptical, warmed to him, his late-night study sessions legendary. The third twist came in 2028, Jaden's sophomore year. A letter arrived from a London hospital, the one where Elena delivered Sophia. They tracked him down, inspired by his story, offering a summer exchange program for pre-med students. Jaden, hesitant to leave Ruth, went after her insistence. "Go see the world, Jaden." In London, he worked in a trauma ward, his hands steady under pressure, his mind soaking up techniques. There, he met Aisha, a British-Nigerian med student with a laugh like music and a passion for global health. They bonded over night shifts, her teasing his Chicago accent, him admiring her fire. A romance sparked, tentative but real, their texts crossing oceans when he returned home. Back in Chicago, Jaden faced a new challenge. The clinic was struggling. Funding dipped, and gentrification threatened its lot. Jaden rallied the community, organizing fundraisers, his voice stronger now. Victor stepped in, leveraging his network, but Jaden insisted on grassroots efforts. Kids selling lemonade, elders hosting bake sales. The clinic survived, its doors open wider. By 2029, Jaden was a junior, his grades stellar, his MCAT scores high. Aisha visited, their bond deepening, her dream of clinics in Africa aligning with his. They planned a future, not just as doctors, but as partners in change. The gala in 2030 was the pinnacle. Victor, now a philanthropist more than a tycoon, shared Jaden's story, the crowd of donors on their feet. The foundation stake was a shock. Jaden hadn't expected it, his eyes wide as Victor hugged him. Ruth, frail but beaming, whispered, "I knew you were meant for big things." Jaden's request on that flight, born of selflessness, had built a legacy. The clinic thrived, Sophia grew up knowing Jaden's name, and Victor, once cold, lived for impact, not profit. Jaden, now 22, stood taller, his stethoscope a promise, his heart a bridge between Englewood and the world.